Alright everyone, this is Ryan Chambers from Unique Perspectives, and today we're going to look at this book, The Courage to be Disliked. Now, it is a pretty good book. It does talk about a lot of topics that go highly against what most Americans are used to, at least opinion-wise. I can't say that by the end of the book that I disagree with almost all of it, but throughout the book it felt like just hear me out, and it wasn't quite making sense. He just took a long time to get to the point. I think that was the annoying part. I mean, it did show some good examples, but I feel like there should be another version of this book that's way shorter, because it could have been way shorter, at least where it just points out all the main points without having this huge discussion back and forth. But then it wouldn't be a average sized books. So you can always just look up all Adlerism or whatever it's called. It's from this Austrian psychiatrist named Alfred Adler. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So anyways, I'm just gonna go into my criticisms or questions about it. So I have to say that I did change a lot of my opinions after reading this book. So he does make a lot of good points. I just feel these two authors, Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga, something like that. So it's just weird. It makes it seem like it's a Japanese thing. Maybe a little bit of the culture is, but it's ultimately, it didn't originate in Japan. It originated in Austria. Okay? And maybe that's why a lot of these beliefs are different from American beliefs. But they would probably also, well, I don't know how much different they would be from Japanese beliefs. But anyways, here are some of my points. So these aren't necessarily in order, but I do know that it talked about change being easy, even though they talk about how it is rarely done because of people blaming reasons for their behavior that they claim controls it. So there would be this person they call a youth. I don't know exactly how old he was, but let's just say he was almost an adult, like 16 or something, and he's arguing with this philosopher. It's just weird they call him a youth because he's so he seems to have thought through a lot of things. Like, he seems to be like an adult, like the average adult. But let's just say he's just like a very experienced or just intelligent youth arguing with a philosopher. Not always saying the philosopher is wrong, but almost always, yeah, even by the end of the book. But then the youth started agreeing more with the philosopher over time, but then would agree with the new stuff that he would bring up. So let's go to the first one. So the philosopher says change is easy. Now, I still don't agree with this philosophy because, yes, theoretically, it's easy to change. Like, you just have to have a different mindset. But that's like saying, something really complicated is easy because I already have studied it for years. It's like, that's easier said than done. Like, you can't say it's easy just because it's theoretically easy. Like, yeah, you could change your mindset, like, in a split second, right? But is that going to happen in reality? I don't think so for pretty much anybody. So on average, I would say change is not easy. Theoretically, it's easy, but practically it's not. So you shouldn't make it sound like it's just so easy. And the reason why it's not so easy is because we have habits, and habits take time to change normally. And we have certain traumas in the past that affect us today, and he'll act like Um, it doesn't matter what past trauma you have. You can just get over it and focus on the present and improving yourself like gradually, and then you'll become into a very successful person. And yes, that's true. You don't have to keep dwelling on the past, but it's not so easy like he makes it sound. Number two, when they say that people find reasons to dislike a person even before they found anything bad about that person. And by the way, when I say they, I'm just going to refer to that one philosopher. But since there's two authors, I don't know. Maybe that's why I put they. Um, so people find reasons to dislike a person even before they found out anything bad about um, that person. Oh, he's saying that. Um, why am I blanking? Oh, he's saying that, like, you know how people have victimhood mentalities or whatever they have, like they'll say, you know, like, I'm a whatever transgender, I have autism, or I blah blah blah, and then it's like he's like, I don't know, almost I guess saying that, like, that people they kind of want to like assume the worst about people, and they have this like this victimhood complex to protect from potential future danger. So they'll just kind of go around and act a certain way. Or I guess for myself, you could say I keep trying to explain to people, you know, how my life is chaotic or my past, I've had trauma or whatever. So perhaps you could say that's like finding an excuse or like distrusting people to like like assuming that things are gonna go bad. So I guess that's what he kind of means by finding reasons to dislike a person, even though I kind of disagree with if that's what he means, but I kind of disagree with it if he just means like I dislike every random stranger before I get to know them and we disagree about something or whatever, and then end up disliking them like consciously. I guess he's talking probably more about the unconscious self, where you might be right naturally defensive. Like if you walk up to a girl and you want to ask her out on a date, then you kind of, if you're at all nervous, then I suppose you already dislike them in some way because you're worried about getting rejected or them, or it's not always you disliking them. It could be you disliking yourself. I know for me, when I want to ask a woman out or just talk to someone I like, I don't think it's so much a worry about being rejected. I think it's more like I'm worried about my performance. Like even if I did get the woman to go out with me, I'm worried either about keeping her interested long term or just my performance, or like I could have done better even if she, you know, did go out on a date with me, and then I just be constantly worried about something going wrong because it always pretty much has. So yeah, the next one, the past environment doesn't cause you to act a certain way, and it is your choice. Choice is something they act like is not determined by fate or past, that anyone can simply choose to act differently without there being this cause. So the cause is called etiology, um, being this cause and effect, but instead everything revolving around a purpose-driven mindset. Teleology is the study of this. So it kind of reminds me of the Bible, where they're like, you have a choice to do right or wrong, but I don't feel like you do, because if any other person was in your exact same circumstance where they had the same genetics as you and they were brought up in the same type of environmental experiences as you, they would always do the same exact decisions as you. So to act like you can just simply choose to do something different, I don't agree with that. If it was that easy, then I would just choose to have all the good characteristics, right? I would just choose to um, not be so triggered sometimes when someone says something. I would choose this or I would choose that. But that to me makes no sense because I feel like it's based on your mental abilities. So some people would not be able to choose remaining calm in a certain situation because they're not mentally prepared for it because of their genetics, but mostly because of their environment, like how they've been raised. But yeah, it is possible for, say, anybody to, as long as it's possible for anybody to think a certain way. I know I've changed my mindset, at least for substitute teaching or at work. I'm way more positive because I really care about just doing my job better. But for some reason, outside of work, I don't choose that enough, even though I feel like I'm growing in that area over time. But I just feel like just saying everything's just like a simple choice. I with that. Like I'll stay open-minded, but I just have argued that a lot with people, and I've never had a good counter argument. Um, that okay, number 4, that you are able to choose certain decisions no matter how much past trauma you have. I already talked about that. Um, so I will say though that although the past trauma you have does for sure affect your choices, the book makes it sound like it doesn't necessarily like affect anything. Like it's all about just your choices. In a sense, I do agree in this that it is possible, no matter how much trauma you have, to um, just change your mindset, but it's not that easy. Um, it'll take time, and there has to be an incentive for you to change too. It can't just be like, I don't know, just like you just trying to change. There has to be a good reason for you to change. And I guess he's saying that um, the reason why you haven't changed is because, yeah, there is an incentive to not change. Um, but he's like, if you change your perception of things, then you will change. Number 5, that everyone has the same ability and opportunity to ease to change their mindset no matter what their upbringing and genetics are. We already talked about that. Number 6, they can claim to know the reasons for things based on assumptions about people without really getting to know them. That one is similar to one of the below points, so I'll just skip that. That purposes or goals are not based on past causes, and that they are irrational purposes when that might not be the case. I think I already talked about that. Um, where it's like you have past trauma and whatever negative things you have about yourself, like you're extra defensive. Well, the purpose of that is so that you don't experience future harm. Just like, what do you call it? The neurotic people like me, um, we rarely get taken advantage of because we're so skeptical or untrusting of people, or we really don't like being taken advantage of, and we don't have a huge social circle. So it's like um, we'll have, I suppose he would say, a purpose of being that way, and that we would only um, change our personality when we see a different purpose for our lives. I mean, I like the way I am in that respect of not being taken advantage of people, but in a sense, it does lead to being overly skeptical or perhaps critical of people. So it's kind of hard to understand how all this relates to, like theoretically, it would be good to have a personality for everyone where they don't get taken advantage of, right? But you can't. It's not that black and white. It's like if you have a personality of where you don't want to be taken advantage of, then you're gonna have some negative other drawbacks in your life. You can't really isolate just like things like that in your life. It's like a spectrum that leads to other parts about your personality being affected if you try to fix that, for example, that specific type of thing. Um, I I don't know why I said the word irrational. I guess in the sense he's saying it's I believe he said something like it was irrational because you could have a better mindset. Um, Anyways, number 8, that advice about situations are catch-all or one-size-fits-all or generalizations. I don't think it talked about this one in the book, but I had a friend that um, like kept telling everyone online like all this stuff, like when he was getting criticized, like how he tried to commit suicide before. And in the Pokemon community, there's like people that try to say all this stuff about how they're a victim, and I get kind of tired of it, especially among liberals. But he's a conservative old friend of mine. Um, but yeah, just the whole victimhood mentality, and the book would say if you do stuff like that, it could be because you want people to stop criticizing you. So there is a purpose of saying that, even if you're not consciously aware of it. That I do agree with. I just sometimes I don't know if there's only one reason, like one explanation why someone might do something. There might be more. I feel like there might be more than one explanation, and it depends on the context. So maybe that's what I'm missing is when they made it sound like there's only one explanation for something. Maybe he based it on the context. But if there's no context and just someone says they want to commit suicide, I don't know if that's always to get somebody to stop criticizing them. There might be some other motivation for them expressing those feelings. Like maybe they want attention or love, or I don't know. Like I think it really you have to get to know the person, and he made it sound in the book like he didn't really need to get to know the person, but maybe I misunderstood something. Number 9, theoretically it sounds good, but practically it has possible issues. We already talked about that. Gratitude instead of praise. They say praise means you're trying to dominate them, and an example of this is they claim that you wouldn't praise your husband for, say, washing the dishes if they had the ability to. And they say that you should apply the same thing to kids, but I personally don't agree with this for lots of reasons. I think praise is positive, and even if it's considered manipulation or domination, that it's a good thing. Like there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with, say, a husband praising his wife or a wife praising her husband, but they make it sound like it's bad because you're trying to like dominate in the relationship. But I don't even agree with that, because let's say the 1960s, when you had wives act more like wives, and they would like compliment their husbands when they got home from work, and we all got along fine back then. So it didn't really lead to problems. When has praise ever led to problems? I guess maybe in some ways in the long term, if people like like expect praise. Like if you stop giving compliments and they get mad that how come you're not saying this anymore? Yeah, if you do it too much or you do it insincerely or this or that. But like I praise students all the time. I've been a substitute teacher. I haven't had problems related to praise, at least in the short term. No, actually, praise is what got them to listen to me. Before, I wouldn't. Being grateful towards people that say don't really do what they're supposed to do, I don't feel like that's a very good motivator. Gratitude to me works only a little bit, and that's for people that already are responsible, right? Like I don't feel like gratitude really can change someone that well from, say, a bad person or immoral person or irresponsible person into the opposite, like praise can. Like, I can change any student from, I don't want to call him a bad student, but having bad behavior into having good behavior in a very short time. Okay? Because I know how to give out praise. When I'm motivated, I get things to work. But as far as just saying like a simple thank you or I appreciate this, blah blah blah, I mean that also blurs the line of is it really gratitude or praise? Because it's like, to me, there's not a huge difference. But in gratitude, I think he's just saying, it's like saying thank you for stuff. But my point is like, how's that any different from praise? Maybe it's just semantics, but I feel like if you're saying thank you or I appreciate this, then that's like praise. Like, I don't think there's. Let's just look it up really quick. Again, difference between gratitude and praise. Gratitude is the quality of being thankful and showing appreciation, while praise is the expression of admiration or approval. Okay, so I think the difference, they make a difference out of it because you're like approving of what they're doing when you're giving out praise. Or it means you admire them. So it's like saying, like, I'm a big fan of yours, or let me see again, or I like your jacket, or whatever. Then that's praise. But I mean, it's like the same effect, except better. I feel like praise is like, but he's saying that you shouldn't try to get other people to rely on praise, because then they're like seeking approval of others, and you shouldn't seek approval of others. Like, you should be happy with yourself and not worry about being appreciated or not by others. And yes, technically, theoretically, that's true. But if that's true, I suppose theoretically, then you would never be happy when someone gave you a compliment. And you would never be mad when somebody gave you an insult. So do you really want to be like someone that's like neutral all the time, like in a meditative type of state where it's like, yeah, you'll never be, to me though, if you're like that, you'll never really be happy and you'll never be sad. So I don't know. I don't think I actually personally necessarily agree with all that. I feel like he's picking isolated examples, like anecdotes, to support his argument. And I do feel like you could praise your husband for washing the dishes. Just because people don't do it doesn't mean that it means something like different. I mean, for kids, like, it makes a lot more sense, though, is my point, to like praise them and stuff, because they're kids. Like, they're not adults yet. They haven't learned everything. Like, you need to pick up your trash, you need to do the chores, blah blah blah. You need to show up on time. So yes, that is why adults don't get as much praise, because they're already expected to do or know certain things. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't praise them necessarily. It's just like society doesn't expect us to as much, or just doesn't do it as much. Number 11, to have confidence in others without getting taken advantage of. It's like kind of encouraging people to just trust, like blindly trust someone else. And I still don't quite understand or agree with that. It's like, how are you supposed to not get taken advantage of if you're like that? And the book even said, like, well, you're going to have to take that risk. It's like, but what if it makes no sense to take that risk? And I guess they're making it sound like you can just cut somebody off, like in a relationship, if they are taking advantage of you too much, and you can still like love someone even though you cut them off. But my point is, like, do you really want to, like, say lose $1,000 before you find out that they're a bad person? Wouldn't it be better to just like not necessarily have that relationship in the first place if you thought there was a good chance that they would just like steal $1,000 from you? So it's like, yeah, that's one point I don't really necessarily agree with the book on. Number 12, all problems are interpersonal relationship problems. I don't think I agree with that. Like, it depends. I guess it's all semantics, right? But like, let's just say it's you all by yourself and you're cold or you feel pain in general. Well, isn't that a problem? Or are you worrying about something? I guess the worry would be an interpersonal relationship problem if it had to do with another person. But if it's just like, I'm worried about this tree falling on me, I guess you could say that's your relationship with a tree, but that tree's not a person. So maybe they should just say all problems are relationship problems, like your relationship to the pain or your relationship to the possible danger. But I get their point, though, is that pretty much all the the most common problems with humans is with other humans. So, or at least other animals, but most likely it's humans that we have the biggest issue with. I do agree with that, but just to say that all problems are, I'd say no, but I get their point. Number 13, but you have to contribute to others in order to achieve freedom and happiness. They define freedom as being okay with being disliked, and I feel like if you are free um, from worry of being disliked, then you're also free from the benefits of being liked. Like, you're just in a neutral state. Um, I get it's semantics again, but I think you can define like mental freedom in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be that. It could be something else. I feel like overall you can be really happy and still um, avoid just saying whatever's on your mind. Like, in fact, the people that, like me, that say more of what's on their mind, they tend to be unhappier because you tend to piss people off. Now, there is less cognitive dissonance in some ways when you can feel like you can freely express things and speak your mind. But, like, I feel like a lot of it, I forget what type of philosophy it is, like behaviorism or something, where it's like you could change the environment in which you're surrounded by, instead of just trying to assume that you can like just handle all this stuff like you're a perfect person, like you can just handle all this criticism, even if like you're surrounded by all these people that disagree with you, that you should stay in that environment and just tough it out, rather than moving to some environment that you would mesh with better, you know? Like, if you're conservative and highly outspoken, you might want to move to an area where they're more conservative instead of liberal. Instead of just thinking, well, I can still speak my mind, even if people are gonna criticize me and stuff, because I can just see it as like I'm not gonna worry about what they think of me. But even if you okay, let's say you don't worry about what they think of you. Um, I mean, does it make sense that you're not worrying about what they think of you, though? Because it's like they're gonna cut off connections, job opportunities, etc., because they don't like you or disagree with you sometimes. And I needed to read more about the book to kind of understand some of this stuff, um, because it's like, where do you draw the line uh, of just being free to express yourself? I feel like there should be a balance. Like, it shouldn't be just you just saying whatever like BS you want that'll piss people off. You gotta like have some balance and not say everything that's on your mind. Um, you don't need to be like an open diary for everything. Like, you can still be an honest person without feeling like you have to tell people all your opinions, and that might not even be productive to do that. Let me just look at my notes really quick. At the end of the book, they ask some questions. I'm just going to go over it briefly. Um, it does sound like the philosopher is overly sure of things in general, and it asked me if I think that everyone wishes they could change, and I said yes. And I said I would change my neuroticism, perfectionism, in some ways, many skills to develop, such as social ability and not overanalyzing and memory. I want to remain emotionally stable for a relationship. The third question answer, my equipment would be funniness, charm, calmness, good customer service, friendly, good listener, intelligence, sales, caring, helpfulness, perseverance. So they kept talking about like what equipment you could use to help you, I guess, in life. And by equipment, I think they're meaning like your mental strengths. The second, so that's in the first night. The second night, questions and answers. Um, it said something like, "Is it comforting to find out that every single person has interpersonal relationship problems?" And I said, no, I feel like that's neutral, because it shows I'm not the only one to have those problems, but it means I might want to avoid some social situations. Number 5, my inferior feelings would include things that I care about, like MMA or teaching or anything, and it could be a launch pad, because they were talking about how inferior feelings in some ways are good, because it leads to you improving yourself, and that's why us as a species compare ourselves to others, to improve ourselves, because we'll feel inferior and want to like get better. Um, Okay, number 6. But they're saying that if you just like think over and over though about how you're inferior, that it's bad. And then it says that love is the most difficult task in life. And I was like, yeah, I feel like on average I would agree with that. For almost everyone, that love is going to be the most complicated thing for them. But I think there are some people that they don't really have that issue. Based on their personality, they rarely have that issue, and a bigger issue for them might be whatever, studying enough to become smarter at whatever, or who knows what. Third night, I put, one wants to be praised by others because human beings naturally want to fit in and be accepted by others. It's how our species survived. And then number 8, freedom in the sense of being disliked by others means not feeling like you have to hide or pretend what your feelings are to gain acceptance. I agree this could be considered a form of freedom, but I believe there are many paths to freedom. Number 9, yes, I have the courage to be disliked, but I don't always find it productive to do so. The fourth night, number 10, I derive a sense of community feeling from video games, MMA, gym, and social media. Number 11, because they were saying like you have to contribute to others in order to feel happiness. Yeah, oh yeah, I did put that, which I don't think I always agree with that. Like, I think there's some people that are happy and don't really contribute to others, but yeah, it's pretty rare though for that to be true, but I feel like it's possible though. Number 11, my life is worth living, possibly without being a use to someone else and being a drain on society, like, because otherwise homeless people or the elderly that aren't very productive would commit more suicides. For me, it would be if my needs are met or not. I would try to give back to society because I like to, but I wouldn't say I have to do that theoretically, even though I should. Number 12, I find that someone has to start, in quotes, is practical advice for, say, cleaning up trash or getting involved in politics. Number 13, there's no 100% person. They say, I was not surprised by this. No one is perfect. Number 14, work gives me a sense of fulfillment through feelings of success, productivity, challenge, etc. The main drawback of labor is the worry about getting in trouble, having to lock in a schedule, and me not liking some parts of the job. Number 15, to live in the present moment, I need to move in such a way where I'm reminded less of the past, not trying to mend old relationships, avoid hanging around potential conflicts or temptations, not worry so much about what might happen or has happened. So that's pretty much it for this book. I agree with a lot of it, but some of it I would have to think more about. Thanks for watching.